No good deed.
I believe it's 1 o'clock. So, good afternoon, everyone. We will call the meeting to order for Murfreesboro Planning Commission for December 13th, 2023. We do have a quorum present today. Did not have any registered public comments. So our first item is the consent agenda, of which there were 4 items, and we've all had a chance to see these and review these prior to the meeting. So if there were not anything we need to pull off for further discussion, then we'd be ready for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jaco.
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Silas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Next, we have the GDO section of our agenda. First item is the Avenue, Murfreesboro, third re-subdivision of Lot 1, final plat for 8 lots on 96.2 acres, zoned PCD and GDO 1, located along Medical Center Parkway. Not sure if this is Big V or Big 5 property group developer. Mr. Aguilera, you can correct me on that.
Yes, ma'am, you are correct. It's Big V, Big V property. I hope so as well. Roman numerals always become very difficult. But yes, thank you, Chair Jones and members of the Planning Commission. This afternoon, in this first item we have under our GDO portion of the agenda is a final plat. This is a final plat, the Avenue third resub and final plat for lots 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This is a result of the Avenue PCD rezoning that came before you all back in September and was approved and was recommended approval and went on to City Council back in October. And the purpose for that rezoning, as you may recall, was for the re-subdivision for the out parcels that you see depicted here, and to provide the developer with some flexibility in managing those, but still in line, again, still be in line with the GDO standards and the other standards that exist within our subdivision regulations and the gateway streetscape standards, as well as, again, preserving any types of architectural standards that the Avenue is known for. So this is, again, the result of it, the final plat for these lots, as you can see depicted out here, the out parcels. There's 3 sheets that are attached because this is pretty sizable. Staff did not find any outstanding concerns with this final plat. There are several comments as well as some procedural comment for the applicant to be aware of. Again, these are for 8 lots and to show the recorded easements that have been recorded on the property, as well as the various for the various sanitary sewer easements, etc., as well as any kind of utility easements. Going through the plat again, there was no major concerns with it, just a few comments to be made. Staff did want to make aware for the applicant, there was a number of things to be aware of and to note that the applicant will be working on before they print the Mylar, and that is, again, that for one of these lots there is a different rear setback, and that is for the lot here on that is Lot 8. It has a different rear setback that is depicted in the PCD program book, this lot here, that we wanted to, again, the applicant to be aware of to make sure that is depicted correctly. Beyond that, though, the comments were minor. They will, again, per the program book, they will have to record a shared parking agreement prior to the recording of the resub plat. And so beyond those comments, so there was no outstanding items. Staff recommends that should you approve this plat, be subject to all staff comments. I'm here if you have any questions, as well as the applicant, SEC.
Okay, any questions regarding the final plat?
If there are none, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Subject to all staff comments.
Still second.
Motion and a second, subject to all staff comments. Ms. Jaco.
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Silas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. All right, thank you, Mr. Aguilera. Next, moving on to item B, we have Clary Park, Lot 13. It'll be for Drake's. It's the final design and site plan review of a 6,381 square foot restaurant located on 2.3 acres, zoned Commercial Highway and GDO 1, located along Medical Center Parkway and Silo Hill Lane. BHG Murfreesboro 1 LLC is the developer. Ms. Green, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, thank you. This next item is final design review and site plan review of the Lot 13 of the Clary Park development. It is all a master plan development. This portion is Zone CH, that's Highway Commercial District, and GDO 1. The property does share a boundary with the apartments that are located in Clary Park, and so the property is here. It also has frontage on one of those pocket parks that were shown in the program book, where the Planning Commission reviewed initial and final design review last month for the pocket park, and that is located here. Last month, the Planning Commission considered initial design review and did recommend approval of initial design review, subject to all staff comments. The design team have been working to address all those staff comments and are presenting their plan to you. This plan does orient the front of the structure towards the public right-of-way, Robbie Corlew Lane. Robbie Corlew Lane, I believe, is still under construction, but it will be complete and dedicated to the city prior to certificate of occupancy for this property. This restaurant also has outdoor dining area. The zoning ordinance does require restaurants to provide one parking space for every 100 square feet of floor area, or one parking space for every 2 seats provided on premises, whichever is greater. And in the case of this restaurant, the seat requirement is greater. The plans show that there are 217 seats in total. 109 spaces are required for those 217 seats. It does include any outdoor dining area seats, which are approximately 68 seats as well. The site does comply with the approved master plan. There is a linear park along Robbie Corlew Lane, with the developer is responsible for constructing, and you can see those elements on the plan that's on the screen before you. It includes a multimodal path, on-street parking, which is not dedicated to any one of the lots, but it's available to the public, a pull-out for Rover, decorative pedestrian scale streetlights, and street trees. And that's all on the north side of Robbie Corlew Lane. The south side of Robbie Corlew Lane has a traditional streetscape treatment that we require in our Gateway Streetscape Master Plan. I've got the material board available if you would like to reference it. Again, it is the same that was presented to you last month. We do have the civil team here today representing this application, who are available to answer questions that you might have or provide any additional information you'd like. If there are any other questions, staff would recommend that this be approved subject to all staff comments.
Okay, y'all have questions for Ms. Green or any of the civil team?
If there are none, I move for approval subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Salas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Ms. Green. Next, item C, we have Robert Rose Village West, Lot 5, final design and site plan review of a 14,500 square foot grocery store located on 2.4 acres, zoned PUD and GDO 1, located along Medical Center Parkway and Robert Rose Drive. TDEC Land LLC is the developer. Ms. Green.
Thank you very much. This next item is also final design review and site plan review for Lot 5 of the Robert Rose Village West Master Plan. You can see on the screen that it's the vacant land shown here. This is a portion of the overall master plan. To the south are some apartments that already developed, the Everwood at the Gateway. You can see the previously Peter D's, now McAllister's, is in the top northwest corner. When this property came to you last month, it had not yet been rezoned. However, today the rezoning is effective, and this property is zoned PUD, Plan Unit District. It remains in the Gateway Design Overlay District as well. With that PUD zoning, there were quite a few exceptions that were granted to the gateway standards that would apply to this property. And so the plans that you have do provide plans that are consistent with those exceptions that were approved by both the Planning Commission and City Council. This site has frontage along both Medical Center Parkway, a major arterial, and Robert Rose Drive, which is a collector street. Lot 5, which is a proposed grocery store, identified as retail on our plan here because a grocery store is classified as retail in the zoning ordinance, does not include any of those driveway access points to either road. You will see a site plan on the next agenda item, which is for the common area lot. So essentially, the next site plan will consider all these connections, with Lot 5 being here, and then common area being the upside-down power T. So Lot 5, of course, does have a close relationship with the common area site plan, and the construction of both elements will happen at the same time, and of course will be required to be in place so that Lot 5 can have access to both Medical Center Parkway and Robert Rose Drive. The applicants have been working with the Public Infrastructure Department and reviewing the traffic study analysis that was provided to that department for what improvements are needed in this area. The City of Murfreesboro is currently adding another lane along Medical Center Parkway, so that construction may have already begun in front of this parcel, but that is currently underway. There are some improvements that are requested on Robert Rose Drive. And I'll pass out a striping plan to you. The design team and our engineers with our Public Infrastructure Department were discussing, as late as this morning, ways that they can provide those improvements. I believe the recommendation to you is that some additional striping be done with the Lot 5 and common area lot, and that additional turn lanes can happen with the mixed-use development. The mixed-use development has the large office, retail, and multifamily as the part of the plan, and so anchoring those lane improvements to the future phases, but knowing that they need to be done. Let me grab the plan that I have and pass it out to you. So on here, you can see there's a commitment from the design team to do the improvements that were agreed to by Public Infrastructure and the developer. So we believe that with this plan, the comment requiring roadway improvements is being done. During the Planning Commission's review, there were some questions about the cart corral that's in the parking lot, not the one adjacent to the building. The one adjacent to the building really blends into the architecture of the building. And so including your comments were the the old one, and the proposed one, which I think Costco was mentioned as an example of maybe to look at. And so this is what the client or the applicant is proposing to you as a solution. So if you have any questions, their representatives are here. And I believe they'd like to speak to it as well. The plan is otherwise in relatively good order. So staff, if there were no questions, would ask that you approve this subject to all staff comments.
And did they want to speak regarding the cart?
I think they're open to questions.
Okay.
Would really like to know if this meets your expectations, but,
Ms. Overwater?
and I can zoom in if it helps.
Yeah.
Looks good to me. Thank you.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Okay. Any other questions, comments regarding the plan?
None for me.
Okay.
If there are none, I move for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Overwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay, item D is Robert Rose Village West Common Area lot excuse me, the initial design review of an access drive with parallel parking and landscaping located on 1.3 acres, zoned PUD and GDO 1, located along Medical Center Parkway and Robert Rose Drive. TDK Land LLC is the developer. Ms. Green.
Thank you very much. This next item, as mentioned, is a companion to the Lot 5 site plan because it's the common area lot that contains the access drives, and I really, before, only said 2 streets. I should have also said Maple Grove Drive, which is a public right-of-way till just past Culver's. Maple Grove Drive, Medical Center Parkway, and Robert Rose Drive are all public rights-of-way, and this common area lot essentially provides connectivity to those public rights-of-way. It also is designed with on-street parking. On the screen now is an excerpt from the program book that I mentioned was approved for this property that identified the improvements here. Essentially, it commits to doing the common area. There are no signage within this common area, and the on-street parking with some landscaping. The landscaping along the south side of the lot would come in with the apartments and the retail that's proposed. However, the streetscape improvements will run along the entirety of the public rights-of-way. The plan does not include any structures. Here's another sheet, I think, that does a good job of rendering the future, what it will look like. The top right corner shows the dimensions, and then to the left is when the retail and apartments will be constructed. So for now, they're proposing the typical 5-foot sidewalk, but when those elements come in, they will need to do the wider 10-foot sidewalk. And then, of course, the master plan, and here's the site plan for the property. There were, with the plan development, many exceptions that were granted to this because it's kind of an awkward lot. It's unusual to have it just as its own lot of record, and that was something that was requested with the zoning. And so with that plan development zoning, they could write exceptions to our development standards, and that's what they did. So the plans that you have, for the most part, do comply with the plan development, even if they don't comply with our design guidelines, our gateway standards, or our zoning ordinance. And so, but it does comply with that PUD. You can, because there are no structures today, you can choose to approve both initial and final and site plan today, or you can have them come back to you next month for final design review. Typically, if there's no structures, Planning Commission opts to do them both in one meeting just because you don't need that to give that feedback for the architectures, since that's already been done. But of course, the applicants would like to know what your desires are, and we'll act accordingly. Otherwise, staff would ask that you make any approvals subject to all staff comments.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Green.
Sure.
So, any questions, comments regarding that? And when we're ready for a motion, please state whether you're making a motion for just initial design review or initial and final design review.
I had a bunch today. Quiet bunch today.
I know.
I'll make a motion, we approve for final review, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion and a second for initial and final design review, subject to all staff comments. Ms. Jaco.
Ms. Abelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Aye. Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay. Finished with the GDO section. Moving on to plats and plans, we have 3 items. The first is West Lawn Pavilion, lots 5 and 6. It's a site plan review of access drive located on 3.6 acres. Zone PUD located north of Shores Road. MAE American Management LLC is the developer. Ms. Green.
Thank you very much. With this application, we begin the plats and plans portion of our agenda, and I put this project first because it's a part of the West Lawn PUD. In 2007, that West Lawn PUD was approved, and one of the tenets in the plan development book was that it had to meet all the Gateway Design Overlay District standards. So although it doesn't have the initial and final design review process as separate meetings, it lumps them all into one. And so I thought it best that this follow the Gateway projects since it's a similar type project. The West Lawn Pavilion subdivision is a part of the West Lawn PUD. It is the subdivision that includes the Publix grocery store and its associated outparcels. Publix is not open yet, but it is a large anchored tenant in the middle of the page. The plan was approved with Lot 5, which is located here, as one lot of record, and future development was to come. At this stage, the applicant, or the developer, who is MAE America Management, is wishing to subdivide Lot 5 into 2 parcels, and it is a rather large lot. It is encumbered by some easements and required buffers. However, they would like to create 2 lots instead of 1, and with the creation of those 2 lots, they'd like to construct, I don't know why this is so hard, a new access drive that, there we go, will bisect those proposed parcels. And so you can see on this map, the Publix is a large grocery store located here. When it came through initially, it was just identified as grocery, but of course we know it as Publix. And so this would be a master plan amendment to create 2 lots, and it would be, this plan today is a site plan. It's similar to the common area lot that you just reviewed for the, I almost said, for the Lot 5 grocery store, and that they want to only construct this driveway now. It's a private drive, it's not public, so it requires a site plan, and it requires a master plan amendment, which is why it's coming to you today. And so that will provide additional access point to the grocery store. The Planning Commission shared with staff that they would like for us to ensure that private drives that serve for public access, ensure that they have ways to maintain them, and so we want to make sure that potholes are getting filled, that there's a clear owners association, clear parties responsible for that. We want to make sure that it's lit so that people driving the roads feel safe, and that it has those pedestrian access ways that are so important to our community here in Murfreesboro. And so I did task the applicant to provide us information, because all the other shared drives with this West Lawn Pavilion development are all owned by Publix, the anchor, and so you have one entity that you can just kind of talk to and say, hey, you want to fix this. I think as a city, as a corporate citizen or whatever it may be, Publix keeps its properties up well, but I just know that the question's been asked for by staff many times in the past. And so the applicant submitted the restrictive covenants that are already recorded with these properties, and I've shared with our legal staff, and we believe that they clearly define the responsible entities and would require that the lot owners light this property, make sure it's functional, and that they repair it. And so I wanted to share that with you today. So this site plan essentially is just for the drive and the sidewalks, and additional elements will come in the future. We opted to allow them to delay installing any landscaping until the sites come in, because landscaping needs to be irrigated, and so when the site comes in, they'll put in an automated underground irrigation system and the landscaping and have somebody to maintain that. But we did want to show you the plans today. We do have representatives here from Reagan Smith. If you have any questions about this, otherwise staff would recommend that you approve it subject to all staff comments.
Okay. Any questions regarding this site plan review for lots 5 and 6? But you're saying we're really just looking at this proposed drive on lot 5?
This is it.
Okay.
And sidewalks. I think they may be there, though. I can't remember. Are they there? Yeah, they're there.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question. So the proposed new tenant for Lot 5 would be one responsible for the private drive?
Let me, yeah, I'll have the applicant come up and talk through the details. I really put the restrictive covenants to our legal department and just trusted what they said. Go ahead.
Matt Lackey, Reagan Smith. In reviewing, I'm not an attorney, but civil engineer reviewing the covenants and the deed restrictions, it's my understanding that the master developer, the MAE, would be responsible for the drive, and there has some sub-language in there that he's able to recoup costs with lots 5A and B for the driveway, but ultimately the responsibility lies with him if he gets reimbursed.
But the grocery store wouldn't have any.
Publix itself does not. It's they're a tenant, so it's the landowner who's responsible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
If there are none, I'll make a motion we approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
A motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Nay.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Silas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye.
Madam Chair, wanted to ask if, for the next item, if we could delay that until the end of the meeting. The design engineer, you recall, we changed the time of this meeting. It was 2:30, and then a couple of months ago, we changed it to 1. So there was some confusion with the design engineer and his client regarding the time of the meeting.
Okay.
The developer just arrived, and the design engineer is on his way, and so if the Planning Commission wouldn't mind putting that one off, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Okay. So item 6C will be moved to right before staff reports. Okay?
6B.
So then we will move on to new business.
No, 6B, I'm requesting to delay, and then we would move over to 6C, Northridge Park.
I sat there and wrote it on the wrong one, so yes, I see that. Sorry about that. So we would like to go to item 6C. Mr. Aguilera, we're going to talk about Northridge Park. It's
Yes.
a preliminary plat for 83 lots, a correction to our agenda that said 82 lots. This is actually for 83 lots on 39.9 acres, zoned PRD, located west of Memorial Boulevard, Brightland Homes developer. Mr. Aguilera.
Yes, thank you, Chair Jones, and apologize for that typo. We were able to confirm with the applicant. The applicant did correct that, and he will correct that with the resubmittal of the construction plan, so we will get that revised. But yes, this, our last item under this portion of the agenda is a preliminary plat for the Northridge Park subdivision. So just a little bit of history with that. As you all may recall, this one had a lot of discussion before. So this one, Planning Commission reviewed the rezoning application for Northridge Park that was proposed. We requested a rezoning application for PRD, RS15 to a PRD, and that came before you all on July 12th during that public hearing for Planning Commission. During Planning Commission's meeting, there was a lot of discussion that was involved, and ultimately what was decided was a connection to open up all the connections to the subdivision, especially here with Amber Drive and Archer Avenue, as you can see on the screen. After it was recommended approval, subject to all staff comments and those conditions for that rezoning, it went to City Council. During the August 17th public hearing at City Council, it was determined from, on first reading, it was determined by City Council that there would be several conditions placed on it, that they would be approved subject to several conditions, one being the termination here of Amber Drive as well as Archer Avenue. And so during that second and final reading, the applicant came back with a revised master plan, revised layout for that subdivision that was consistent with the City Council's decision. And so what you are all seeing here today is the revised master plan, master layout, the preliminary plat now for Northridge Park. So just wanted to kind of refresh that memory, because last time, again, when this was presented to you all earlier this year, there was a change in that layout and what was decided at City Council. So the purpose for this preliminary plat is to create, again, 83 lots of record in 3 common areas to depict the public rights of way, as well as the depicted easements in this subdivision. As it's currently shown, this preliminary plat is consistent with the Northridge Park PRD program book, and again, is consistent with the language that was decided at City Council with, again, the termination, the cul-de-sac here at Amber Drive, as well as elimination of that stub street at Archer Avenue. There are still 4 access points into the Northridge Park subdivision. You have one here on Tillinick Lane, one here on Guadalupe Drive. That was previously the unnamed street. When this was last presented, it did not have a name for that street, and so the applicant has provided street names with it and decided to give that street a name that is now Guadalupe Drive. You have another one, access point off of Tower Drive, and then another access point off of Banner Drive. So still 4 access points into the subdivision that, again, was consistent with what was decided at City Council. The primary access point will be Tillinick Lane. This access, this will be the primary access into the subdivision, and that was established with the language from the Northridge Park PRD program book. This is to be constructed in the beginning of the construction of the subdivision, and again, it will be the primary access to the subdivision during its construction. The lot sizes that are depicted here for the subdivision are, again, are consistent. I'm trying to get over there. Are consistent with the program book. They are lot sizes, minimum lot size of 12,000 square feet, minimum lot width of 70 feet, and have the same setbacks that were depicted as well as in that program book. And again, that is for 83 lots that are depicted here, as well as the 3 common areas that you can see on your map here. We have one common area here, another one here that is encompassed by the cul-de-sac, as well as this area, the common area, a male kiosk pavilion that was also proposed with the program book and is shown here with the preliminary plat. As I stated earlier, this is all to be constructed in one phase. This will not be phased, and so we have made sure that that any kind of installation, landscaping that is required to be with this, any kind of amenities that are proposed with this subdivision are installed prior to the signing and recording of the final plat, since again this will all be done in one phase. The landscaping that is proposed with this, I did provide an additional landscape sheet that the engineer that revised for this. That was another discussion that was discussed during the meetings when this was presented, and so we received a revised landscape sheet from the applicant to kind of, again, just highlight all the areas that are existing and which areas are to be preserved and remain there, and the supplemental planting that will be done to replant those areas. That was a piece of language in the Northridge Park PRD program book, again, to preserve the areas where possible, and to, if any were to be damaged or to be taken out, that some type of supplemental planting be made for equivalent to a type A buffer. And so the applicant has revised that and shown those areas, and again, we'll be working, should there be any kind of damages or anything along those lines, that they plant that supplemental material when necessary. And that is, again, just to show you all where those areas are at, but then again also to show that that the applicant will be putting in that more natural landscape design that is consistent with the program book's language. Overall, the preliminary plat, again, is consistent with the Northridge Park PRD program book. The preliminary plat has been thoroughly reviewed by staff, and we were working very thoroughly to address lot sizes, street widths, and everything, access into this area and the planning for the subdivision. There are some comments for them to address, and a number of procedural comments. One of them being the mandatory referral application for Archer Avenue to properly abandon that segment of right-of-way at 40-foot 48-foot segment of right-of-way. That application has already been submitted, and that is on today's agenda. And so you will be hearing that application and schedule a public hearing for that item. But there are a number of procedural comments that they must satisfy with this preliminary plat, again, involving the recording the quitclaim deed for the mandatory referral, submitting HOA documentation, as well as, again, ensuring that the correct common area elements are installed prior to the recording of the final plat. But overall, though, staff did not find any outstanding items of concern. Again, we will work with the applicant to address the several of the procedural items when they submit the final plat and follow through with the construction plans. We ask that should you approve this, we recommend the approval subject to all staff comments. I am here if you have any questions. Huddleston Steel, Chris McGuire with Huddleston Steel is here as well, should you have any questions for him.
Mr. Aguilera, can you just explain for me on the Amber Drive cul-de-sac that's down there around lot 31, I believe? Oh, thank you. Yeah. So all the area around the cul-de-sac, and I guess the cul-de-sac is common area, or comes the public street, but the area around that, as well as the lot to the right that says Tony D. Oliver, is that common area?
No, ma'am, that was property that was not included with that
Okay.
original request, so that will be...
Excluded.
Yes.
Okay. Just the common area. around.
Mr. Oliver has an existing house on that property with a driveway off of the existing Amber Drive stub, and this will enable his house to continue to have a driveway there off of Amber Drive.
Okay. It's going to, okay. Connect from the existing Amber Drive, not the new cul-de-sac.
But there may have to be some reworking of his driveway, but this enables him to pretty much, his property to be pretty unchanged.
Okay. Okay. All right, I appreciate that. I couldn't quite tell. Thank you for blowing that up a little bit so I
Yeah,
could see
no
it.
problem.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Any other questions or comments regarding this preliminary plat?
If there are none, I make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Aguilera. So now we will move on to new business. Our first item there is a zoning application, excuse me, for approximately 31.3 acres located along Medical Center Parkway, Williams Drive, and Toon Avenue to be rezoned from MU, GDO3, and PSO to PUD, Fountains at Gateway, GDO3, and PSO. Hearthstone Properties is the applicant. Ms. Green.
Thank you very much. Our first item of new business is is for you to consider an application submitted to you to rezone property located along Medical Center Parkway. The rezoning request, of course, is required to have a public hearing, and today they're asking that you do schedule that public hearing. It's for property, I think, that we're most familiar with here in Murfreesboro, that includes some property owned by the city of Murfreesboro and some properties owned by Hearthstone, including the Fountains, which is developed. You can see the orange color on the map is the 4 different parcels that are part of this request, and the applicant has purchased property from the city and also has contractual interest to purchase additional properties from the city as approved by the city council in any of those agreements. And so as they continue developing their plans to continue developing like the Fountains, they saw a need to create some property lines that could not meet our normal subdivision regulation standards. So property lines that may be closer to buildings. They wanted this whole development to be designed as one integrated development, but have a need to possibly have different lenders involved, and the different lenders would require the creation of property lines. And so, to anybody who visits the site, the property line won't be obvious because they'll see this all as a cohesive development, but for the sake of construction and creating this place, there's really a need to do something different than what's required or what's allowed under our current development regulations. One of the purposes of a planned development is to of course, encourage development of land that is higher quality than is possible under the regulations otherwise applicable. And so with this one being the mixed-use walkable community, that's what they're doing. And also, it's to create a type of development that cannot be done under a traditional bulk zone requirement. And so you have this application before you. In total, it's 31.3 acres, and of course, consists of those 4 parcels. Even though the applicant doesn't own 2 of them, we consulted with our legal department, and they believe that they can make an application to rezone the property on the behalf of the city of Murfreesboro. So this isn't an application being made by the city of Murfreesboro, it's actually being made by Hearthstone, who have a contractual interest in the property. Of course, you can see it's got the greenway that goes along a portion of the property and frontage along the Gateway Island Pond. The CSX Railroad runs northwest, and it's along the boundary of the property, and it's across from a site that the Planning Commission approved a site plan for, I can't ever remember the name, like a outdoor concert area. And so that's when you look across at Medical Center Park where we see MU, that's where that's located. This is located in the Gateway Design Overlay District, GDO 3, which means that it's our most restrictive of the 4 sub-districts, and it does require DRC review and approval of development plans when they come in. The current mixed-use zoning would allow a mixture of commercial and residential zoning to develop here, but again, it would require those 50-foot setbacks along the front. It would require larger setbacks along the other property lines, and they really want to create a different type of development. Let me go to my little chart here. So, as under the existing mixed-use district, which was created in 2013, the property could potentially develop with 782 multifamily dwelling units. This application does propose multifamily as a component, but it's a subordinate part of the development plan with 316 total, and I made the chart for you to see. You can also see that the different phases development, I've broken down with their information the uses that are proposed here, and there's, of course, office, retail, restaurant space, and a proposed hotel. And the developments are all phased. One of the elements that we know is that Phase 3 in the plan is they have anticipation of how it's developed, but really think that it might be refined more in the future, and they probably will come back in the future, have it nailed down a little bit further, but really wanted to do an overall master plan on this and show you their proposed development for the property. Let me see. Of course. There's the property. They're working with our public infrastructure department to get a traffic analysis so they can submit that to them and determine what kind of roadway improvements may be needed. You can see Toon Avenue currently dead ends into the existing property as it is now, and there's no access to Toon Avenue. The Williams Drive public right-of-way ends just before this property, so there's no public right-of-way there. And then Carl Adams is a private street. There will be a parking structure associated with this development, and I think that's something that we're all aware of, that will provide additional parking here. The plan will propose a parking analysis that distributes parking a little differently than our zoning ordinance requires, but I will let the applicants come to you and present the plan to you. They have, they want to give you an overall presentation of the plan and work on maybe some of the details before the public hearing. So I'll invite the design team to the lectern at this moment and present to you what they would like to do on the property, and I would ask that you schedule a public hearing after their presentation.
Good afternoon, Kevin Gunther with Reagan Smith. And thank you, Ms. Crean, for that overview. Very pleased to be in front of you this afternoon. Pleased to be part of this project team. We have here Scott Gravy, the developer, with us, Paradigm, Tyler Thayer and his team are representing architecture, and then Preston Ayer is with SWS Engineering. And Matt Hamilton, project manager for Reagan Smith, is kind of leading the charge. So I'm going to give you just a really quick purview and let him take it from there. We're excited about this because we think Phase 1 has been successful for the fountains, and what we are proposing for Phase 2 is more of the same, and I think even adding some improvements and even more opportunities. So, Phase 1 has, I think, a very successful track record of providing amenities and some community spaces, and that will continue in Phase 2 and 3. It also has, I think, some exciting architecture that we want to continue to build on and add for Phase 2 and 3. And I think it truly represents a mixed-use project that is stimulating the economy. That's something that we felt is very important for the city. So with that being said, I'm going to let Matt take it from here, and certainly we would be glad to have the entire team answer any questions you have about the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gunther.
Good afternoon. I'm Matt Hamilton with Reagan Smith. The vision for the fountains is to place a strong emphasis on lush parks, green spaces, and as well as a deep sense of belonging. It's approximately 32 acres. It stands as a distinctive property within the Gateway District. It represents a significant development opportunity occupying a prime position along Medical Center Parkway. The master plan has been designed to seamlessly integrate with the existing land use and transportation networks that surround it. And the creation of this master plan for these parcels allows for the thoughtful consideration of a diverse mix of uses that complement one another. And central to the master plan is a focus on pedestrian-friendly circulation with numerous pocket parks and atriums, enhancing connectivity and promoting a walkable lifestyle. The overarching goal of the fountains is to enrich the lives of residents, visitors, offering high-quality living, shopping, working, and leisure experiences while all conveniently being accessible in one walkable location. As Margaret Ann mentioned, with this PUD, we're asking for several exceptions, along with some of the internal property lines not being treated like perimeter property lines. Another big one would be the exception to the multifamily residential height requirement of 75 feet. We're asking for 150 feet, which is consistent with office and hotel uses in the GDO3. And this would allow us to do something exciting and creative along with the residential. And just to break down some of the phasing a little more, Phase 1 is existing, and Phase 2, which is the pink, and that would come online first. That would allow us to start the main boulevard for the site with a mixed-use building. After that, we would move on to Phase 2B, which is in the red, and that would include a boutique hotel and a kind of a unique retail arcade. And then, as Margaret Mann mentioned, Phase 3 would be the back portion of the site, which would be at a much later date than these first two phases. And with that, I'll invite Paradigm to come up and kind of discuss some of the architectural features and programming for the site.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Just so I can get an idea. Phase 1, what's the height of that building?
That's a great question. Anybody know the height of Phase 1?
Thank you. This is Tyler from Paradigm Studio. The original building is, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's approximately between 70 and 75 feet.
Okay, that's what, just for reference. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having me again. My name is Tyler. I'm the principal of Paradigm Studio. And I've been involved with this project from the genesis. And so I'm very excited to be back here today, and I'm going way too fast here. A little spinny dial. Briefly, I wanted to give a little bit of overview on the architectural character of the building. So one thing I love about working with Scott Graby is his care and his desire to produce not only a great place to be, a great place to come and be family oriented, but also something that as architects and interior designers, great design. And so every building on the campus has its own kind of unique identity, but it's all rooted in quality materials, masonry, a lot of the GDO requirements we are bringing forward and will maintain. But we will be looking at some experimentation or some different expressions of the same materials. And so we plan to continue on as in this building 1C, which is the medical office building with some restaurants on the bottom. A lot of the masonry that is there will continue on. A lot of the nice natural the glazing that allows for a lot of natural light internal to this, into each building. We will bring those same architectural motifs, architectural languages forward. A lot of the color templates, or the color, the patterns and the color palettes will continue as well, with warm tones of browns and some of the natural tones as well that come through. So we plan to bring all these forward with the entire site so that it's cohesive, it's built together. All these buildings talk to one another and they feel good and they feel homey and warm, but they are all also unique and individual buildings that have their own expression with light. And so we will continue with the PSO as well as we continue to develop that. And then, this is the first proposed building. This is building 2A. So you'll see a lot of those same warm tones. We're going to bring a synthetic wood tone, which would bring a lot of that warmth that the existing buildings have. So very similar tone to what's existing on campus, but also bringing forth our brownish gray bricks, a lot of that warm tones, a lot of the black metallic accents, and then some of the lighter tones as well that kind of make things bright and airy. We are experimenting with a little bit more glazing to bring in more natural light. And one big feature on this building, and we hope to feature on the rest of this phase, is the mass timber. And so you will see, you probably, if you've read anything going on in Nashville, and mass timber is not new, but it has had a resurgence. Mass timber is a real wood, a sustainable material, but it's a structural material. One of the really nice things is that it's beautiful. And so this building, we are bringing something new, what we hope will be new, which is exposure of this wood, natural wood material, and its warmth that it brings. And so at the retail level, we will be expressing that with some exposed columns on the exterior, and then on the interior of the building, we look forward to expose those columns, expose a lot of that natural mass timber as well, so that the inhabitants not only have natural light, but they also have some of the beauty of God's creation indoors. So we're really excited about this building. This building up here on the screen illustrates our true mixed-use approach to the campus. We have retail on the first floor, which is where the public interacts, and then we have a semi-public a second floor, and the back end of this, which will be office. We are planning to build out a continuation of his successful studios project, and he's already got tenants ready to occupy before we've even broken ground. And really, it's a succession, an expansion of the kind of the life cycle here on campus. That is also fulfilling part of his agreement with the city, which is to bring new business, new jobs, and new growth in the business community here to the campus. And so I think we'll be building, I think it's a minimum of 50,000. I think we might have exceeded that, which is how it has come. But that'll be that first and second floor. And then the third through the fifth floor will be residential condos, which will be ownership based in those, and also highlights, which is not necessarily the exterior of the building, but a beautiful atrium that's on the inside that will continue kind of the pocket park pieces, the nodes that are external for the public. It'll be a more private zone that will continue that motif throughout the process. Going forward, we have provided inspiration images for the future buildings that are on site. So the next building is a boutique hotel that Scott Graby and Hearthstone will build, develop, own, and we'll probably partner with management, but it'll be all part of the family, so to speak. The idea is probably it'll be either a soft flag boutique hotel, or it will be a pure boutique that is, and it will have a lot of character infused with it. We plan to hopefully embrace if the mass timber is successful in this building, we hope to embrace that a little bit more on this building. We've offered a couple samples of the architectural kind of language that we plan to employ. It will include some balconies. I think in his travels working through that, a hotel often does not have balconies and outdoor space, but we plan to infuse that in this as well as the mass timber and as well a continuation of natural light. We find that one of my favorite testimonies for what we've been doing on campus is all the office users, the medical office users, the testament to what natural light can be and how it can lift the spirits. You can talk to Dr. Albert Katine at MMC The Aesthetics, like the natural light, his patients have time and time again testified to the internal aspects of this. So that's where a lot of this glazing is coming from. It's really to bring in natural light. These are some examples of kind of the aesthetics, different a little bit, but we will be, if we use the mass timber, we will be using kind of a more modular function, which is the efficiencies of the mass timber. So these kind of have those connotations. And then also we're really excited about a new component that is fairly with Scott's travels, which we're calling the alley or the arcade or the promenade. We haven't 100% settled on that, but it will be an outdoor, kind of like the arcade, where it has smaller retail shops. It will be covered similar to this image. This is actually an arcade that he visited, and it's just full of life. It's a continuation of what we're already doing, and it's an amplification of it. It'll be internal to the site. It will be behind if we go back to actually, we got a little key plan down here, and right here, so it's this sliver behind the hotel and between building 2C, which would be the third building on site. We ended up sliding those two buildings together to create this kind of alleyway between that would be covered, and that will it'll have a 30-foot by 30-foot shop, like 900 square foot for other users that aren't going to take a large space, but give more diversity, more opportunity for small business on site. And then further, we're getting into really the back portion of the site. The front portion, we are planning this is where the extension of the request for the 150 feet. So the GDO for office and commercial allows 150 feet. Residential, it caps it below that. We are requesting as part of our exemptions to allow residential to go up that, because part of our mixed use philosophy is to put the residential up high and the commercial the more public space. So the taller you get, the more private the space becomes. When we're doing that, we're looking at wanting to put, these are a little bit overscaled from a sense of scale, but we're wanting to try to communicate the kind of the quality of space that we wish to create at a smaller scale, and that would be limited by this exception which matches the 150 feet in the GDO. So we're not really wanting to go beyond the GDO, we're just wanting to modify that one use. And this would be an example where you have a public bar, you can kind of see it right here, which is the office, the retail, and then a residential with really great views. And one of the reasons we created this idea of the tower typology is really to maximize views. So theoretically, the idea would be that each little residential tower would have 4 corners. So it's more of an equalizing of space so that everyone has a really great view on site. And if you've been to the top of the fountains, you know this place has amazing views all over Murfreesboro, and we're wanting to capture some of those things. When we continue on in building 3, we're getting a little bit more hypothetical, but we look at, there will be one building that's more akin to the type 1, the building 1A, the current 100,000 square foot, which will be mostly office. These are some ideas that we've had. Again, a lot of masonry, some wood for warmth, some balcony spaces, which are very popular to bring the outside in and allow that semi-private occupation. But then also windows, a combination of punched windows, but also large windows that allow a lot of natural light. And then that is the end of the presentation. So I think there's a few more pages, but this is a great abbreviation. And then we would continue this typology within phase 3. And at the top of the phase 3, I will mention this one thing. We are planning currently this little building right here, probably the pinnacle of the project as we continue this boulevard all the way through site. The largest Pocket Park is kind of planned for the end. We're going to carry on the Pocket Park theme throughout the entire site. Reference the larger PUD book for more explanation on that. But the largest Pocket Park and some sort of boutique, a little higher end, kind of nicer, bigger restaurant or something of that nature would kind of be the pinnacle of this, kind of the end of the destination, and really welcoming a lot of family and just being a really great place to congregate. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present, and we look forward to talking about this and working with you to bring this to reality.
Okay, thank you very much. Looks exciting. Okay, is that that's it for presentations right now, right? Okay. So, any questions for anybody before we would schedule a public hearing or anything further?
I don't have any questions right now, no.
And I take it we're looking for a January public hearing, January 10th, Ms. Green is telling us. Thank you.
Make a motion, we set a public hearing for January 10th.
Second.
Motion in many seconds, Ms. Jaco.
Ms. Overwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay, thank you all very much. Next, we have item B. It is the annexation petition and plan of services for approximately 21.4 acres located along Blackman Road, including approximately 1,265 linear feet of Blackman Road right-of-way. Bob Parks is the applicant, and Ms. Kerr, you're going to take this one for us.
Thank you, Chair Jones, members of the Planning Commission. The first annexation to set for a public hearing has been requested by Mr. Bob Parks, the owner of the property. The property is approximately 19.62 acres and located along the west side of Blackman Road. In addition, included in this annexation study is 1,261 feet of Blackman Road right-of-way. The annexation of the Blackman Road right-of-way portion has been reviewed and approved by the Rutherford County Board on December the 4th of this year. The annexation study area includes 4 properties and, of course, the right-of-way of approximately 1,261 linear feet of Blackman Road. Currently, the properties adjacent to the Blackman Road are developed with single-family residential duplexes. This annexation does have a companion zoning application for a planned residential district and a planned commercial district zoning simultaneously with this annexation. That PCD and PRD will include 76 single-family detached homes, 3 commercial lots, and then the remaining 0.3 acres, which will be dedicated for the Blackman Road, future road expansion for this project. The annex study is located within the city of Murfreesboro's urban growth boundary and is contiguous with the city limits along the eastern property line. This annexation study area is also located within the service infill area within Murfreesboro. Staff is in the process of formulating a plan of services for the proposed annexation, and that should be ready by the public hearing. Planning Commission will need to discuss this annexation petition and schedule a public hearing. Staff recommends a public hearing date of the 10th.
Okay. And I think just for clarification, your notes say 1,261 feet of Blackman Road, and our agenda says 1,265, so...
1,262 was the final number that came back on the most recent information.
It's all approximate. We're just measuring off GIS.
That's not all right. I don't want somebody to have to clean that up later. Okay, any questions before we schedule a public hearing for this item? Okay.
There are none. I make a motion that we schedule a public hearing for January 10th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
I'll abstain since I didn't hear any of it.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay. Item C. This is a zoning application for approximately 19.6 acres located along Blackman Road to be zoned PRD. It's the Village PRD, approximately 14.91 acres, and PCD, the Village PCD, approximately 4.71 acres, simultaneous with annexation. 360 Development is the applicant. Ms. Kerr.
Thank you. The applicant, 360 Development, is requesting to zone the subject property to planned residential district and planned commercial district simultaneously with the previous annexation. The property is located along the western side of Blackman Road and Bridgemore Boulevard intersection. The property is currently developed with 7 residential duplexes and 4 parcels, which it combines to be 19.62 acres. Of this 19.62 acres, 4.7 acres will be contiguous with Blackman Road to be a PCD development of 3 commercial buildings, and then 2.3 acres of right-of-way dedication for the improvement of Blackman Road. Let me get you to this. There we go. The density of the dwelling of the development will be 5.09 dwelling units per acre. There are 2 primary points of entrances into the development, out of the development from Blackman Road, one of which is proposed, will be from the development, will be connecting to create a 4-way intersection at Blackman Road and Bridgemore Boulevard. The adjacent land uses and zonings of this property is currently zoned medium-density residential in the county, and in the city, and residential multifamily in Rutherford County. The surrounding area consists of a mixture of zoning types and uses. Surrounding land uses include a mixture of residential subdivisions and agricultural properties. Shelton Square is a residential development to the east, directly across Blackman Road, consisting of a mixture of 1- and 2-story single-family detached homes with garages and varying lot sizes. The PRD portion is 14.9 acres for up to 76 2-story residential homes. Get to the with minimum lot sizes of 4,650 square feet. The minimum lot requirement will be 50 feet. The homes will be a minimum of 1,800 square feet of living area with a minimum of 3 bedrooms and front entry garages. Per the program book, the lots will be for sale to individuals and will not be sold to rental companies. There will be an HOA, and it will be responsible for the maintenance of all the common areas. The residential lots will be phased. There will be 2 separate phases throughout this project. As you can see, you've got Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 will include a temporary mail kiosk. Phase 1 will include a temporary mail kiosk. Phase 2 will include a permanent mail kiosk and the outdoor amenities for the development. Street connections are proposed to be stubbed from this property to the north and to the west and to the south, with 2 ingress-egress points on Blackman Road. The exceptions that are going to be requested with this planned residential development, our driveway lengths are going to be asked to be reduced from 35 feet to 25 feet from the garage to the right-of-way. Front setback from the house to be reduced from 35 feet to 19 feet and 20 feet to the right-of-way on the secondary fronts on corner lots. Corner lots are generally have two fronts and two sides, so they're asking for the side secondary fronts on corners to be 20 feet. The rear setback is asked to be reduced from 12.5 feet for the interior lots of the development, and the perimeter units will continue to keep the 20-foot rear setback. Reduction in the required parking in the driveway from 4 cars to be allowed to park 2 cars per driveway, with 2 car garages to be used for vehicles only and not for household storage. Road design exceptions requested as noted in the pattern book are from the minimum tangent between horizontal curves and minimum distance between intersections within the development. The PCD portion of this development is 4.71 acres and allows for the development of 3 commercial lots. As you can see, you've got this is A, this is B, and this is C. I don't do this as well as everybody else, but A, B, and C. It does show the potential for buildings, parking, circulation, landscape, and access. The commercial development is speculative, so no specific users have been identified for those commercial uses at this time. Exceptions requested for the commercial PCD portion is front setback reduction from the new internal road from 42 feet to 30 feet. Commercial buildings will be oriented to face Blackman Road. Reduction of 3 feet to the front and secondary fronts to accommodate for the extension of canopies and awnings off of the buildings, and so that would be a reduction to 27 feet. And then a reduction in the CF standard of 200 feet down to 70 feet for the required separation from a drive-through to an adjacent property line, residential property line. Future land use map of the Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan indicates that suburban residential is the most appropriate land use for the project area. General characteristics of the suburban residential character includes garages on the front and side of homes, generally larger lot sizes with the possibility of smaller lot sizes in exchange for great open space devoted to maintaining the suburban character. Enhanced landscape between adjacent properties and roads, enhanced on-site amenities, larger front yards with increased front setbacks, and incorporation of street trees. Densities for this character range from 1 to 4 per acre. Generally, compatible zoning districts would include RS-15, RS-12, and RS-10. The proposed PRD and PCD are not consistent with the suburban residential characteristics. However, in this instance, the applicant proposes introducing commercial uses to introduce a higher residential density of 5.1 per acre. The village seeks to create an urban environment emphasizing active living amenities, advantageous use of a minor arterial road, and well-integrated and accessible commercial presence. The Planning Commission will need to determine if this is an appropriate instance to deviate from the future land use map. The applicant is here to talk with you with a brief presentation and discussion of the proposed project, and then after that discussion with the developer, then you would be asked to schedule a public hearing for January the 10th.
Ms. Kerr, just a question. One of the items that you mentioned was the drive-through going from 150 to 70, I believe is what.
200. From 200 to 70 is what I wrote down.
And so, past conversations at the BZA, that probably wouldn't fly if this was going before the BZA. just because of what the plans that we've seen before. I know this is not the BZA, but have we deviated that much since those conversations were had?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Taylor. And let
Okay.
him respond.
Mr. Halliburton, the one instance that I can think of that in a planned development where we have deviated, and I don't remember if it's to this extent, but there was some relief granted on the Northfield Acres planned commercial development at the corner of Tennessee and Northfield, which went through Planning Commission and actually was before City Council last Thursday for public hearing and was approved on first reading. I don't recall if that relief was as substantial as this relief or not.
I don't recall the distance on that, Matthew, either. So I do recall there being relief, but I don't remember the exact distances.
In both instances, the separation is to proposed residential lots as opposed to existing residential lots. And I know that might not make it better for the people who will be living there, but it's not to an existing residential lot. It would be to the proposed homes to the rear of the commercial uses.
So the thought process there is they know what they're getting themselves into as long as this commercial lot had been developed and the drive-through was there when they bought their lot.
Or if they were industrious enough to research the planned development zoning.
Well, there you go.
But I remember us having that conversation of which ones coming first mattered to this body. I remember that conversation. So what commercial will be developed first?
Residential is likely, but we also have several good leads on the commercial. Mr. Parks has sold at least 2, if not 3, sites for the daycare. We think this northern piece here is a good daycare site given what's going on at Shelton Square and the school to the north, as well as some of the other county subdivisions that are developing to the north. And then Mr. Parks is considering developing that building himself, actually. And so don't have any specific tenants, so the drive-through may not even be there. We were just looking for flexibility. No specific tenants. And I think we did talk about what came first at Northfield, and what we said there was, we expect the residential to be first, but what we've done, and we made the same commitment in this book, is posting signage, showing the whole development, showing the concept plan. So, if there's any residential buyer that comes out to look at this, there's going to be signage out here that shows this plan and that opportunity.
As far as, Ms. Averwater, as far as the timing of the commercial, that's an ongoing discussion that staff has been having with Mr. Taylor. Certainly, the commercial, from staff standpoint, is a very key aspect of the plan. And we've been discussing we've been conveying to Mr. Taylor and his team that assurances that the commercial will get built and when it gets built are important to staff, and we feel likely important to the Planning Commission as well. And so, but we have not been able to, I would say that discussions are still ongoing between staff and Mr. Taylor on that point.
Yeah, and our difficulty with the commercial is, you can look on the south side of the interstate, and you can look at West Lawn, you can look at Berkshire, and both of those we zone commercial at the front of the property. And the answer there was it was the right zoning for the property. It took several years to develop that, and in both instances the residential was there first, but it was the right zoning, and we can see that now. Even Berkshire, that was a late 90s or early 2000s zoning. We knew that Beasley Road, or what is now Veterans Parkway, was going to have an interchange, so we knew commercial was the right zoning on the front. It took longer than Mr. Parks or the city wanted, but he had to hold on to that for many, many years. But again, we've got 2 daycares, we've sold for another office use there, and so we've got the right uses at the right place. We feel like this is the same instance. We're bringing neighborhood type uses to an area that's probably a little void. One thing that we talked about at Shelton Square was probably wish we had a little commercial at the front of some of that. We've got an opportunity to make up for that with this project, we think.
I just think that we might want to, we haven't looked at the whole or heard you talk about all the uses that are going to be listed as potential, but I think we definitely understand, like, and echo that I have concern about having the drive-through.
I can relay that back to my
You got
client.
Shelton Square right across the street. I mean, it's just surrounded by it right there.
I can relay that back to my client.
Yeah, I'm fine with the commercial aspect of it. I understand that, but I agree to the drive-through, especially with that tight of a setback from the residential. That's tight.
All right.
And honestly, not even just a drive-through. I see veterinarian clinic on here and vet office, but it doesn't look like we've excluded boarding, like dog boarding.
I can't remember which one of those allow the overnight stay, if that's hospital or...
Veterinary office, the way it's defined in our zoning ordinance, does not have any animals coming to it, but a veterinary clinic
Right.
Would be like Stones River Animal Hospital on Memorial Boulevard, or where there would be outdoor animals. Whether there's boarding or not, there would be an outdoor element to it.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, that's a no for me.
And so certainly, if y'all see uses now on this list that you would like Mr. Taylor to strike from the list, I'm sure he's all ears.
Well, I know we talked about that distinguish between office and clinic when we were doing the Highway 99 and Cason Lane project right there, and those houses back up to it, and we said we didn't want overnight boarding, but then what about emergency care? I mean, even if they don't accept, boarding dogs, they might still have emergency patients who have to stay the night and make a lot of noise.
Yeah, and
So you're okay with the office, it's the clinic with the overnight stay?
That's right. I don't remember the distinguishment there, but I think that was the same thing we did on that one development on the corner of 99 and Cason Lane. I'd have to look back. Even a grooming facility, that I see grooming facilities allowed. I don't think animals tend to stay more than a few hours at a grooming facility, so maybe that's okay.
I think we can eliminate overnight stay. I don't think you'll have any issue with that. I didn't have any other formal presentation. I'd really about questions today if you had them.
It is Ms. Averwater and Ms. Jones, is the direction that y'all are giving him to remove the possibility of a drive-through on any of the commercial buildings? Did I understand y'all correctly?
I mean, I just think it's so far, it's wide open right now, so why even put that out there as something? Because you're going to go from this list and start searching for users, and I think you can tell from the Planning Commission, I think we have some pretty major concerns about that. Just looking at the, 4 acres in the middle of all this residential, it's not a huge commercial development to begin with, and I don't see it needing the drive-through.
I think I've heard your wishes. We'll take care of that.
And for me, that's not the only concern I have. What's the ask today? Are we scheduling for a public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have a lot to talk about before that public hearing, Matt.
I'm going to
What
look at
other,
a lot
what
of
other do you need to bring up that,
because there's a lot of exceptions, the setbacks and stuff. Like, why start at the beginning when there's nothing proposed to make it so,
Yeah, if we want to start at the residential, I have a big concern with the driveway setback or the length of the driveways from 35 feet to 25 feet, and then the sidewalk crosses that. I know that you included the drawing of the fire truck and the waste truck navigating the neighborhood, but if you're reducing those driveway lengths, you're going to have cars parked, and there's 35 guest parking spots on an 80-something unit development.
I'm happy to explain that. So we modeled this after the Pretoria or after the Tuscany development on Thompson Lane. And so that's the houses that you see here, that is the exact clientele. And so those all had shallow setbacks because we're geared toward an empty nester. And so, we don't anticipate a lot of families or kids, and so you have less cars. And the sidewalk is outside of that 25 feet. It is inside the right-of-way, so the 25 feet is going to be measured from the right-of-way. And so it's really to bring the house closer to the street. It's really a design element is what we're going toward there.
Describe that again, Matt. You're saying?
Yeah, so if you look right here, so you've got 25 feet from the back of sidewalk, which is really where it's measured from, to the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sidewalk is in addition to the 25 feet because the sidewalk's inside the right-of-way.
Right, but you'll still have cars blocking the sidewalk.
You could, but you can have that on 35 feet. I mean, if you've got big enough vehicles, we just use those as kind of standard rules. As a matter of fact, I think Tuscany might have had a shallower setback than 25. It might have been like 20 or 22. And, I've went through there in the evening time, and I've talked to that developer. I have not seen a parking problem there, given that's the same sort of household.
From a staff standpoint, when a developer proposes to have a one-car deep garage, one-car deep driveway, what we want to do to make it functional is to make sure that there is ample space behind the sidewalk to park one vehicle, so that, because we know that no one, whenever they propose a 19 or 20 foot deep driveway from the back of sidewalk, I always say no one parks flush with their garage door. So what we want to do is have it deep enough to accommodate that car length, but not too deep where it would encourage someone to park behind it and block the sidewalk. And so I think what we found is that we don't want to go any more than 25 if it's still only going to be one car deep, because then it would encourage cars to block the sidewalk. So that's kind of our thought process is obviously where we always want to start is having the 35-foot deep from behind sidewalk so that you can park 4 cars in the driveway. But oftentimes developers want to go closer, and so we try to make sure that if they do, that it's not going to block the sidewalk. A design element anyway.
Yeah, and we've heard the 35-foot discussion up here a lot, obviously, and so that's why we restrict this ask for whenever we think it's a different type of development when the target market is not going to create that issue. And so, there's other times where we leave it as 35. We did some shallower setbacks at Shelton Square across the street purely to create a different street edge in some of those instances. There's other parts of Shelton Square where we left at 35 because we knew that they were going to be a different target market there. As far as the other setbacks, I mean, or the other exceptions, I think they mainly had to do with, because this started out as an HPR. We had originally proposed this as an HPR to staff. Staff asked us to make it single-family lots instead. We started as an HPR because of the target market again, because if you go and look at Pretoria and Tuscany, those yards and things are getting taken care of by the HOA, and that's what our buyers here desire. And so we tried to make the lots that would be privately owned here as small as possible to restrict how much would have to get maintained by each individual owner. And so that, if we went to an HPR, several of these exceptions would go away. And so we were trying to, we've heard the desire is to have single-family lots, but Northfield was an HPR for the same sort of reason. We're targeting the same market with that Northfield project we just mentioned. So, And it may have had the 25-foot setback, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'll make a comment, and I'm not saying whether I'm pro or against it. I appreciate the single-family lots, but with the exceptions on the single-family lots, it just makes the residential feel really tight. And so it may just be a feeling thing. I've driven through Tuscany, I've sold houses over there. It may be, if it's the same exact size lots and the same setbacks, it may not be that bad, because Tuscany's not that bad once you drive through it, but just looking at it on this picture, it seems really tight.
So what I'd say is, if you look at Tuscany, the densities are almost identical. I think Tuscany's density was 5 units to the acre, and this one's 5.1. Tuscany was an HPR, so it's not necessarily size of lot, it is size of house and separation. The houses there are 40 feet wide. That's exactly what we've got these set up as. And there's one spot in Tuscany where, at the end of the day, we came back, and the developer did too, we made them too tight back to back. I think it's in the back, I think they're like, the houses back to back are 10 feet apart. It's too tight. We don't have that here. We specifically did not do that for that reason. And so this has a lot more green, a lot more open space than Tuscany did.
And how many total guest parking do you have in there? It looks like it's quite a bit, actually.
We've got 36 spread around the site, so we've got a spot here, 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 and here.
And in the amenity area, that's a little gazebo, I take it?
A gazebo, pickleball, I think we've got a pet park in there, as well as some fire pit and seating areas in there as well. And then we've also spread some walking trails around the northern portion of the project, and then through the central part. We also got some seating areas planned at each of those locations as well.
Overall, this is about twice the size of Tuscany, is that right?
I think Tuscany had 34 units. I think that's right.
Well, you guys know I'm never a big fan of having some of these commercial uses right next to people's houses, 10 or 15 feet away, like gas stations or...
There are no gas stations.
We have specifically not allowed, specifically prohibited gas.
That's true, no gas station. But I think we asked for an exception. You guys are asking for an exception on the landscape buffer between the commercial and the residential?
I don't think so.
What was that? I was just reading.
I think we are fully in compliance.
Or maybe my thought was the landscape buffer
I think
is not
actually
sufficient.
I think what staff had asked us to do and what we've said is, ask for a fence in addition to the landscape buffer here. They asked us to plant some of that buffer with the residential if it's first, so it starts to mature. And so we said, yeah, we'll do that. We'll plant half the buffer and the fence and let it start maturing, and then the plants on the other side of the fence would get planted with the commercial, because we know there'd be a little bit of grade change at that, along that those parking lines, like that.
I'll make this statement about the commercial beside the residential. Not the neighborhood I live in now, but the neighborhood I lived in prior had a gas station, a Kroger, restaurants, everything right adjacent to our neighborhood, and it was the most convenient thing you could possibly deal with, because you never had to leave your neighborhood to do anything. So I think if the consumers know going in that, hey, we're going to have commercial driving into our neighborhood, and they're buying the properties when they're already set there, that's one thing. I mean, if you're buying it and you not know that there's going to be commercial there, yeah, that's a problem. But if you're buying it knowing there's commercial there, that's, A-okay, and it's really convenient.
Sean, I would tend to agree with you, except that your lot sizes in your neighborhood were a lot bigger than this.
They were.
This is like someone could
Throw a baseball.
I could throw a baseball, and that's saying a
That's what I'm
lot.
saying. The residential to me feels tight, but as far as I'm just making the thing about commercial being adjacent to
No, I agree.
residential.
I agree.
Usually, that's really convenient to the people in that neighborhood.
Especially if you put a Starbucks. I live there, so I don't have a problem with that part per se, but I do think the residential is too close to the commercial. I don't like the drive-through. I'm not currently happy with the driveway, the reduction in driveway length, and I want to do more research on the width of the road and whether or not we can still host emergency vehicles through there if houses have cars parked on the street, which they will. And I understand you're catering to a different demographic, but like Ms. Jones said, this is twice as big as Tuscany. It's also on a totally different side of town than Tuscany. And we can try to target our neighborhood to a certain demographic all day long, but if this is a good price point and it's close to commercial and it's close to the interstate, I don't think you're necessarily going to get that demographic that you think you are. I think you're going to get my demographic. And also, my dad has more cars than I do. So I don't think age has to do with how many vehicles you have in your home, per se. To be honest, Matt, I'm not ready for a public hearing on this. Like, if everyone else wants to go forward, I know your client's going to want to go forward with a public hearing, but I apologize. When I reviewed the agenda, I did not review this one adequately. So I'm not ready for a public hearing. That's me.
Matt, you said that this is going to be targeted. I'm assuming you're targeting 55 and up. Would your client consider 55 and up restricted instead of just targeted?
We've talked about that, and, he really doesn't want to do that. Like if you go to Tuscany, for instance, it's not restricted, but you might have he's had a few divorced moms with maybe a teenager or something in there. And again, it's no more impact than the 55 plus.
I was trying to help Commissioner Overwater next door to me.
So we can look at those. So a couple of you said it feels a little tight. I assume it's just the setback, that shallower front setback that is feeling tight there. Would you prefer an HPR?
I don't think council would prefer an HPR.
Yeah, council hadn't really liked HPRs.
I'd almost rather they be attached at this point.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, how do you even fit it's individually maintained yards, Matt? No, it is HOA maintained yards.
So the way that it's set up right now, they would be individually maintained because they're going to be single lots. If it was an HPR, they would be maintained by an HOA.
So you put a fence. Can it be fenced?
They can, right the way it's set up right now. If we did an HPR, then we would have to grant some they call private elements. You would know that. So we'd have to grant some very private common elements so they could fence in portions of their yard. The fenced-in portions would have to get maintained by the individuals if they chose to fence.
It won't be hard to cut the yard. Just take your weed eater outside. 2 swipes, done.
I will just have to say, I do think, one of the things that we're all really struggling with now is, density versus the larger lots that we were used to for so long. I remember when Tuscany first came in, and I was very leery of it, but I spent a lot of time out there, pretty much drove through it almost every day while it was being developed. I really like the development. I think it's very well done. Those houses are close together, but it's very nice. It is used as an example a lot of times up here, or for other builders, other developers. I want to do something like Tuscany. I really, when we're trying to look for what can we do as a city, and we have to figure out how we're going to allow some of the density, and I think a project like this looks like what we would be looking for. If it is, and again, trying to picture it on paper versus what it really is going to look like, but if it is that kind of look, like you see when you drive through Tuscany, and, I do know several of the people that ended up moving out there. It is a lot of my age and up, but it is also young professionals that moved in that don't have children yet, or the divorce one side or the other, single, whatever. It is a wide range, but I still really like the idea, and I would love to see several Tuscany-type developments scattered in different areas of town, and especially if they help us in trying to get some of the density in without having just townhomes everywhere we go for density.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate the single-family lots a lot. And if it's, like I said, if it's the same kind of density and setbacks and everything Tuscany has, it's doable. And just looking at this picture, it seems.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah.
And I agree, I don't have a problem with the density. I mean, you're right, Ms. Jones, like, we need the density, and I'm fine with the density, but I'm worried about the street parking, and I'm worried about the proximity of the commercial to, like, Lot 1, Lot 50, Lot 51, Lot 70-something, 76. And I'm also worried about the lack of guest parking spots and guest parking pads, should I say, not spots, but parking pads, specifically for guests.
So we could look, we can, again, we've restricted, in the book, we've restricted the garages to not be for storage.
Hey, I have a question on that. If they have to mow their own yards, where are they going to put their lawnmower?
It'd have to be in the garage or,
But their car has to go in the garage?
absolutely.
Both cars? And the lawnmower? Matt?
They're using
They're going to be push
They're not
mowers,
riding this.
so- Or they're going to hire it out.
Yeah.
They may not even have a lawnmower, and they may
Well,
have,
I'm starting a lawn care company, and this will be my biggest client.
there you
Door
go.
to door.
Maybe you'll get rich off of it. So what, we can look at some of these things. What I would say is, again, it's very much a design element desire to have the shallower setback. I think it creates a better feel street. You lived in Puckett Station for a while. You drive along those single-family lots, those were 25, maybe even 20-foot front setbacks there. It's got to me, it's got a much better feel than a street that has the typical 35 or 40-foot front setback. It just feels warmer, it feels cozier, however you want to term that. And I think that this demographic, this style of house is where you can do that. I understand that not every development can do that.
You're saying Puckett Station's setbacks are cozier?
Yes. I think it makes the street feel better. And I've been over there, a month ago at 7 o'clock at night.
I know.
Visiting a friend, and I didn't see a ton of parking on the street. I didn't see that issue, and it was a Friday or Saturday evening. So I just didn't see those issues going on there. I'm not saying that nothing had a car parked on the street. I parked on the street when I was there, but I was there for 2 hours and I was gone. I'm not obstructing service delivery. I just think we give up something whenever we just say everything needs to be the 35 feet. But we're happy to look at it. If that is a true sticking point, then we're happy to go back and look at that.
See, and he knows I can't say anything about the Puckett Station driveways with Mr. Floyd sitting right there.
I just think it's a good example of a good example. And, I'm sure I've got good examples of bad examples, but.
And I've lived in Puckett Station basically my whole life, and I do love it, but there are flaws to it, and parking is one of them, a lot. Crowded streets, sidewalks being blocked. Anyway, it could just be my opinion. Matt, you and I can talk about it later.
Sure.
I think I would make a motion for a public hearing on January 10th.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in having a public hearing, and then after the public hearing, if there's, discuss it at that point. I'll second Brian's motion.
Thank you.
Ms. Jayco, it sounds like we have a motion and a second for a public hearing on January 10th.
Ms. Saverwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye.
And we can continue to work with Mr. Taylor between now and the public hearing. I think we've all heard y'all's concerns this afternoon.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. All right, next we have item D. This is an annexation petition and plan of services for approximately 112.5 acres located along Veterans Parkway, including approximately 1,475 linear feet of Veterans Parkway right-of-way. Kathy Davis, Howard Barley Yeargin, and Randall Robinson Jr. are the applicants. Ms. Kerr.
Thank you again, Chair Jones, members of the Planning Commission. The property owners, Kathy C. Davis, Howard Bartley Yeargin, Randall Robertson Jr., have submitted a petition requesting their properties be annexed into the city of Murfreesboro. The annexation study consists of two parts. The portion along the south side of Veterans Parkway is 82.35 acres, and the portion along the north side of Veterans Parkway is 24.05 acres. In addition, included in the annexation study area is approximately 1,630 linear feet of Veterans Parkway right-of-way. The total annexation study area is approximately 112.5 acres. Consent to annex this segment of Veterans Parkway right-of-way was approved by the Rutherford County Road Board on December 4th of this year. Currently, the subject properties are developed with primarily single-family homes. The majority of the annexation has a companion zoning application for a planned residential district, Prater Farms PRD. Request for a total of 391 dwelling units for an overall density of 3.67 dwelling units per acre. One of the properties is requesting to be annexed. That is a 1 acre lot. That is tax map 124, parcel 28.1. It's addressed as 2025 Veterans Parkway. It is an individual lot that is asking for annexation, but it is not a part of the PRD request. And then 2.07 acres of map tax 124, parcel 28, which is surrounding on the east and west sides, will be rezoned to RF 15 single family if annexed as well. The annexation study area is located within the city of Murfreesboro's urban growth boundary and is continuous with the city limits along the northern and western property lines. Oh, I think I got on the wrong thing. Let me get back there. The Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map identifies this as a service infill line, and this line is to help facilitate growth and development in the city in an orderly, planned, and sustainable manner, and to help plan for future city services. The annexation study area is located within the service infill area. Staff is in the process of preparing a plan of services report for the proposed annexation and study area, and will be provided to the Planning Commission at the public hearing. The Planning Commission will need to discuss this petition and schedule a public hearing. Staff recommends a hearing date of January the 10th, and the applicant is available to discuss. I'm sorry, this one's just for the annexation. Never mind. We just need a public hearing set. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Move to set the public hearing.
So, second.
For January 10th?
Yes,
So-
January 10th.
Okay. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Abelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay, next we have item E. This is a zoning application for approximately 106.4 acres located along Veterans Parkway to be zoned PRD. It's Prater Farms PRD, simultaneous with annexation. Old South Properties is the applicant. Ms. Kerr.
Thank you again. This is a rezoning application for along Veterans Parkway for Prater Farms, PRD, simultaneous with the previous annexation. It is for Old South Properties, represented by Dan Bobo, and is requesting to zone the property to planned residential district. The property is located along Veterans Parkway and is separated into two parts. The portion along the north side of Veterans Parkway is 24.5 acres, and the rezone proposes 125 single-family attached townhomes and 18 single-family detached units, all to be located within the horizontal property regime. The portion along the south side of Veterans Parkway is 82.35 acres and proposes 248 single-family detached dwelling units. The overall development density is 3.67 dwelling units per acre, based on a total of 106.4 acres, and for a total of 391 dwelling units. Veterans Parkway is on the City of Murfreesboro's 2040 Major Transportation Plan, and it's up to date with the 5-lane roadway with curb, gutter, and sidewalks along both sides of the roadway. Traffic impact study was prepared by the developer civil engineer and submitted to the city's traffic engineer for review. The adjacent land use and zoning of the property is currently zoned RM in Rutherford County. The surrounding area consists of a mixture of zoning types and uses. The land to the north and west is zoned PRD in the city of Murfreesboro. The land to the south and east is zoned RM in the county. The majority of the land surrounding the subject property is zoned for residential purposes, with a small portion of land set aside for commercial development to service surrounding residential uses. Prater Farms is surrounded by a mixture of residential subdivision and agricultural properties. The Prater Farms PRD proposes a variety of housing types. The southern portion of the project consists of 82.35 acres and will have 248 single-family detached lots on minimum lot sizes of 8,500 square feet, making it a density of 3.67 per acre. The homes will be a minimum of 1,400 square feet of living area with a minimum of 3 bedrooms and 2-car front entry garage. The northern portion across Veterans Parkway will consist of 24.5 acres and will have 125 single-family attached townhomes and 18 single-family detached homes in a horizontal property regime with a density of 5.95 acres per unit. The townhomes will be a minimum of 1,300 square feet of living area with 2 or 3 bedrooms and 1-car front entry garages. The detached HPR homes will be a minimum of 1,400 square feet of living area and 3 bedrooms with a 2-car front entry garages. The exceptions requested with this planned residential development for the single-family detached house on the south side of Veterans Parkway. For the corner units, they are requesting a reduction for the front setback from the secondary street, this could be a side, from 35 feet to 22.5 feet. Single-family attached, they request for the front garage to be set back to be reduced from 35 feet to 25 feet. Also, they are requesting that the front of the house, not just the garage, but the house and the garage, be able to be set off the road 25 feet, or off the right-of-way 25 feet. Single-family attached on corner units, they're requesting a reduction for the front setback from the secondary street from 35 feet to 10 feet. And the single-family detached HPR corner units request a reduction from the front setback from the secondary street from 35 feet to 15 feet. On the single-family detached HPR product, front setback reduction along Veterans Parkway from 45 feet to 40 feet. That will actually be those homes that they will actually, their rears will face Veterans but there's a 40-foot landscape buffer proposed for that, behind that as well. Future land use map of Murfreesboro 2035 comprehensive plan indicates that suburban residential is the most appropriate land use character for the project area to the south of Veterans Parkway, and auto-urban residential for the area along the north side of Veterans Parkway. The general characteristics of suburban residential are garages into the front and side home facades, usually larger lots, but smaller lots possible in exchange for great open space devoted to maintaining the suburban character. Enhanced landscaping between adjacent properties and roads, enhanced on-site amenities, larger front yards, and increased front setbacks, and incorporation of street trees. Densities for this character range from 1 to 4. The general characteristics of auto-urban residential are less openness between dwelling, urban landscape, emphasis on connectivity within the development, a density range of 4.0 to 12, and PRD zoning for townhome developments. If it's taken into two separate zoning requests, the southern area of the proposed development is consistent with the suburban residential land use character, but the northern area is not consistent with the recommendation of the auto-urban residential land use character due to the number of townhomes that are proposed. However, when taken as a whole, both the north and the south sides together may be an appropriate use of the future land use map transition policy. The applicant is available today to discuss the proposed rezone request, and you need to discuss the zoning request and schedule it for a public hearing. And again, staff recommends January 10th for this public hearing. I'm available to answer any questions as well as the applicant, either before or after the presentation.
Any questions before the presentation? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kerr.
Thank you, Ms. Kerr. I don't have a formal presentation. I'm happy to go through questions. We think we've got a unique opportunity, since we've got property on both sides of Veterans Parkway, to make it look and feel as a consistent development. And so we can do that through our landscaping at the front. You're going to see some similarities with architecture. We think that really brings a unique opportunity to these two pieces of property. So be happy to answer any questions that you have, though.
I got a statement. I appreciate Mr. Floyd bringing, I think this is the first time since I've been on council that I've seen what most would be considered a single family or a starter home, single family detached home being proposed in the city of Murfreesboro since I've been on council. So I appreciate that thoroughly.
Yeah. I really like the mixture.
Yeah.
I really do. The breakup. Of course, I'm going to ask because we are doing the reduction in driveway, you're asking for the reduction in driveway on the single family attached.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anywhere to squeeze in some more guest parking pads? Because at least the parking pads in this one are closer to the single family attached. Like, I think it would be more reasonable to get to a guest parking space from these.
Are you saying just maybe spread them out a little? So we've got, so I'll highlight them here.
Yes. Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot. I do really appreciate that. I did not count the ones over here, so thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's just the setback, the change in the driveway is just single family attached, right? If I read correctly, the detached is still 35 feet.
Yes, ma'am. And if you want a good example of this, the most recent one I can think of is Shelton Crossing, which is right beside of Shelton Square. It's got the exact same. It's got the two wide driveway. It's got good distribution of visitor parking. I can't say I've driven through there, but I look at it every time I get on 840 off of 24, and I do not. Again, I don't see the parking issues there.
Yeah, my daughter lives in Shelton Square, so we pass by Shelton Crossing quite a bit. I mean, there are cars parked in the street, but it's not over-parked, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah. And I like that this is on its own. you wouldn't have to drive through this unless you were going to one of the townhomes, right?
I'm excited about the wiffle ball court, so.
Okay, let's go.
Oh, that's funny.
I make a motion to set,
Can I- Can I just mention
Yeah.
one thing that I had a concern about, and I've spoken to Mr. Floyd about it. I was concerned and did want to just make sure that we know with the houses that have the garage that extends out closer to the road, that we have some sort of maybe some way to know how many, of those, that it wouldn't turn out to be all of those up and down the street, and so that we're driving down the street and just looking at rows of garages. If we could have something, either we know which lots, or we know a percentage, or maybe.
I don't know that we can give you a hard percentage. What I can do is say, you can look at any of Mr. Floyd's or Old South's projects. They do a very good job of mixing their floor plans and their houses. They had shared that they had heard some of those concerns from a few people. And so I looked at Mankin Point, which is out on Manchester Highway, and they do a very good job mixing there. If you could drive through there, there's some homes with water tables. There's some homes with brick to grade. There's some homes that are all brick. The front elevation, I think every floor plan can have something like 9 different elevations. And so they mix those up. Some of that's going to be client driven or buyer driven and what they're looking for. So I don't know that we can give a hard percentage, but I can say with their track record, I think they do a good job mixing those. I looked at the same thing in Puckett Station, just to try to get an idea. And really Shelton Square, because they built inside of, not half of Shelton Square, but probably a third of Shelton Square. And again, you don't see that repetition that you're concerned about, Ms. Jones. They've done a very good job with that.
Okay, and what about the picture we're looking at right now? The left side elevation, like we're not going to see that on a corner or on a side street. That is only going to be if it's facing it's
Right,
10 feet away from another house.
And we have, inside of here, we have made commitments on anything that has a side that faces a corner, another street, or an open space. And so we've called those high visibility lots, which we've done routinely here to place more importance and emphasis on those sides. And so we've got some examples in here of where they'll dress up the side, they'll add at least a water table on the side. And, some of the other houses may have water tables too. It's purely a buyer preference at that, so.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure I stated a couple of things that I'd been concerned about. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That being said, I'll make a motion, set a public hearing January the 10th.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay, our next item is a mandatory referral to consider the abandonment of a segment of Archer Avenue right-of-way, Huddleston Steel Engineering, Inc., on behalf of Brightland Homes, Inc. Mr. Aguilera.
Thank you, Chair Jones. As stated earlier with the Northridge preliminary plat application, this is a continuation of the application. This is a mandatory referral application to abandon a segment of right-of-way, Archer Avenue right-of-way. In this mandatory referral, the Planning Commission is being considered to abandon that segment of right-of-way, as stated earlier with that preliminary plat, the Archer Avenue public right-of-way. The above-mentioned request for this abandonment is depicted here, as you can see in this attached correspondence, abandoning this segment of right-of-way, about 47, 48 feet of right-of-way. And this portion comes of Archer Avenue, was recorded back with the Palmer Heights subdivision, Section 7. That final plat was recorded back in 1973. So as stated earlier this year in August, just kind of a summary as you see in your staff report, and kind of again, as I stated with the Northridge preliminary plat presentation, the rezoning application for the planned residential district, the Northridge Park PRD, was heard before Murfreesboro City Council for a new single-family detached residential subdivision. This proposed subdivision was located again north of Palmer Heights subdivision. This area right here is that area north of this is the Northridge Park, which you guys heard earlier. And with that subdivision, they had proposed connecting stub streets at Amber Drive, Banner Drive, Tower Drive, an unnamed street at the time, and then Archer Avenue. Murfreesboro City Council decided to vote during that application and determined that to not have a connection at Amber Drive as well as Archer Avenue. As you saw during that preliminary plan discussion, that presentation, you saw how Amber Drive was to be handled, of course, with that cul-de-sac in the common area, and this is how the Archer Avenue will be terminated via mandatory referral request to be abandoned. And so there will still be, again, as stated with that presentation, there will still be connections to the subdivision, to Northridge Park, but the applicant has proceeded forward with a request to abandon and terminate this portion of right-of-way here. As stated in the attached correspondence provided by Huddleston Steel Engineering, because the permanent termination of Archer Avenue would no longer meet the International Fire Code's requirement to terminate roads greater than 150 feet in a turnaround, the applicant, Huddleston Steel Engineering, on behalf of Brightland Homes, is requesting to abandon that segment of Archer right-of-way 150 feet from the intersection of Archer Avenue and Bluebell Avenue. So you can see, again, from this exhibit where that's at. In further review of the requested abandonment, staff concluded that this abandonment would not affect the driveway access to the two adjacent lots here, Lot 133 and Lot 154, from the Palmer Heights subdivision. Staff did want to make sure, again, that we're in review of this abandonment, that we're not impacting that driveway access, and determined again that there was no impact to that driveway access to Lot 133 and Lot 154. Additionally, staff did conclude that with this elimination of the existing Archer Avenue stub to the Northridge Park property, that the abandonment will also eliminate any possibility of any future street connection between the two neighborhoods at this location. And again, that is coming from the request of Murfreesboro City Council. The Planning Department has reached out to utilities and other city departments for comment regarding the impact of abandoning the segment of Archer Avenue, the Archer Avenue right-of-way, and staff will provide Planning Commission a summary of those comments from our city departments and utilities. The Planning Commission will need to discuss this matter and schedule a public hearing, and with that, staff is recommending a public hearing date of January 10th, 2024. I'm here if you have any questions, as well as Huddleston Steel Engineering is here as well.
Okay. Any questions? And if not, we're ready to schedule a public hearing.
Motion to schedule a public hearing for January 10th.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Everwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay, and I believe if I circled the right item, we are now going back to item 6B. And this is Watkins Glen. It's a preliminary plat for 38 lots on 16.3 acres, zoned RS10, located along Sandstone Circle and Laurelstone Drive. Jeremy Tabor is the developer. Mr. Barbie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Jones and members of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission.
Brad, if you want to put in page 110, that's the page of the PDF that you need to go to.
That is great. There we are. Circling back, this item on your agenda is the Watkins Glen preliminary plat. It's a preliminary plat for 38 lots on approximately 16.28 acres. We'll also have an amenity area that's going to be provided roughly in that section of the neighborhood. Connects to Pebble Creek subdivision to the west, Laurelstone subdivision through connection on your southeast. On the north side of this neighborhood is also another section of Pebble Creek, and across Emery Road on your eastern side is Emery Estates subdivision. Staff has reviewed the documents that have been submitted that demonstrate how the infrastructure for the subdivision will be created and meet required standards. They do have some additional information that's going to be forthcoming. There is one small area that engineering staff feels may have a small possibility of ponding water. So design team has been made aware of this, and they're in the process of obtaining additional survey information, and staff is comfortable that this will be able to be worked out through further review. For the most part, other than that item, staff feels like the plat is generally in good order and would ask that any approval come subject to staff comments.
Okay. Any questions on this preliminary plat?
If there are none, I move for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
A motion and a second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye. Okay. Now, here we go. Looks like we're at staff reports and other business.
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple of reminders. Our next Planning Commission meeting won't be for about another month. It'll be on January the 10th at 6 p.m. And we're having that a week later than normal just because of the New Year's holiday the preceding week. And also, we have just a few short weeks to get all of our continuing education completed. As a reminder, 4 hours are required by December 31st. And so we would ask y'all, if you haven't already, to watch that 4-hour training video and let us know when you get that done so that we can get everybody all trained up per state requirements by the end of the calendar year. And that's all I have.
Okay. We don't have any further business, then we stand adjourned.